Is our audio on? Can you hear me? Yes? Can you hear me? Good. Okay. All right. Let's just get to the show. I think we're going to be good from now on in, but I'm still worried about it. I am still worried about it. Welcome to College Football's Peek Around the Corner with your host, Greg Pflugar. We cover everything in college football because we love everything in college football. And if you do as well, please subscribe to our channel. Smash the like button if you like our content. Share the video with your family and your friends. If you want to donate to this college football Rebel Outpost channel for you sickos out there, hit the $ where you make a comment and I'll get to your super chat as quick as I possibly can. Welcome everybody into the studio that sits on the corner of Keith Jackson Parkway and Kurt Gowdy Avenue. Do not be afraid. Do not be afraid to be a legend. PATC community. Do not be afraid to be a legend with your comments in the chat room, with your phone calls later in the show. There's going to be a lot of you, maybe almost all of you, that are going to disagree with me today, and that is fine. That is absolutely fine. Put it in the chat room. Fire away at the phone calls. Let me have it. But I gotta be blunt. This is what this show is all about. I always get in trouble. The creation of a 72-team Super League is a bad joke. It's not gonna happen. I cringed when I saw it when we were doing a live show. I gotta be blunt. It's not gonna happen. It shouldn't happen. It won't happen. Now, will a Super League happen in 2031? It could. It could happen. Absolutely it could happen. It could be I don't know. Could be a 24-team Super League, a 36-team Super League, a 48-team Super League. It ain't going to be no 72-team Super League. It ain't going to be where some organization, sure, you got Danny White on there and you got these names. It ain't happening that way, ladies and gentlemen. It ain't going to happen that way. I have a lot of great friends out there. A whole lot smarter than me on other college football YouTube channels, and we are in a disagreement, and that is fine. Mature adults can be in a disagreement. I'm going to tell you something. This 72-team Super League flies in the face of almost 99%. I will give the exception in a little bit. It flies in the face. This creation of a 72 Super League flies in the face of everything, 99% of everything that is going on in the college football world today. Every decision, every single decision, from a president, athletic director, from a media company, everything. Everything. I mean, it doesn't make any logical sense whatsoever. The only part of the 72 Super League that makes any sense at all is that it gives playoff access to everybody, which is important to me, which I've been fighting for. I've been saying the G5 should have their access. I believe there should not be a breakaway of the Big Ten SEC. I have been on the David side of almost every single argument and discussion we have. Almost every conversation we have, I've been on David's side, not Goliath, not in the Big Ten, not in the SEC. I haven't. I've given you guys a peek around the corner, but when it comes to what I believe, I've been on David's side. But on the 72-team Super League, it goes against everything that is going on. Now, you might say, well, great, everything should be switched. Everything should be, so, I mean, there's only a million examples that I can give. Only a million examples. Cincinnati Bearcats. You acted in your own self-interest. You got out of the G5, you went to the Big 12. The Big 12 acted in its own self-interest. It grabbed Cincinnati. It knew that ESPN wanted Cincinnati in the Big 12. There are a million examples of conferences. Look, right now, the Big 12 is saying, well, let's see here. We might bring on UConn, but is that good or bad? Is that good or bad? Is that good or bad? How can that increase our value? How won't increase our value? Some schools like it. Some schools don't. Brett Yormark likes it. It might have to do with other things that are going on. Your media partners, ESPN wants it. Fox, if they're going to agree to it, they want a little bit more. The SEC, some of the schools want a ninth conference game. Some of them don't. ESPN is like, we don't know if we want to pay for that ninth conference game. And then suddenly we're going to have a 72-team Super League in which everybody's going to be paid a massive amount of money. You're asking Ohio State to do what exactly? To make a whole lot less for the good of the sport? It doesn't make any logical sense. But these schools want to play with their peers. With their peers. Their institutional. If you look at that 72-team Super League, those divisions, that is never going to happen. Are you asking some of those schools to play five of those divisional opponents every year of their 9 or 10 conference? None of these schools want that. None of the Big Ten and the SEC schools want that. Probably some of the Big 12 ACC schools don't want that. It goes against every... It doesn't make any sense. Why? Again, a lot of you are going to be angry with me today. A lot of you are going to unsubscribe today. A lot of you are going to be incredible. But this is what this show is about. Just like when I told the Big Ten and when I gave you my strongest opinion that the Big Ten and the SEC having an automatic bye out of a 14-team playoff is absolutely ridiculous. It's horrific. Just like I pissed off a whole bunch of Big Ten people that day and SEC people that day. And when I stand up for the Big 12, when I stand up for the ACC, when I stand up for the G5, I get everybody upset. I'm sorry. But I'm doing the same exact thing today, but I'm not necessarily taking David's side. The creation of a 72-team Super League absolutely erases all the decisions that everybody's been making over the last 5 years, over the last 10 years, over the last 20 years, over the last 100 years. Really? You think that's going to happen? In my strongly held opinion, the Super League might happen. It might. It could. I'm not reporting that it will because I haven't been given, that door hasn't been open to me. If it does, if there's real talks going on and I've got that nugget and I've been given the okay, I'm going to give you the peek around the corner. But it ain't going to happen this way. It's impossible. It's impossible. I find very good people, very smart people discussing this over and over again on YouTube channels. So I had to do this today. I got to be blunt. I got to give you the peek around the corner. That's what this show's about. This thing ain't happening. It ain't happening. It ain't happening. If it does, I'll take the biggest L in the history of mankind. The Super League happens when Georgia, when Ohio State, when Michigan, when Alabama, when private equity comes knocking on the door, and they already have, by the way. Private equity has already talked to these schools, by the way. And when these schools say, yeah, this would work. This different separation from everybody else is big money. We can make more money, media money, blah, 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 blah. And then those schools and that private equity, they're going to decide the format, the creation of this new Super League. If it happens, that's how it's going down. Not by some outside organization, not by some group that has private equity backing, by the way, but not by, no offense. Don't take no offense. But it ain't happening out of Bubba Cunningham advisory. It's not coming out of Dr. Gee from West Virginia advisory. It ain't happening that way. It isn't. It's happening because the biggest dogs want it to happen. The domino effect. Remember the domino rule. It ain't happening from the bottom up. There is no way that the Big Ten is going to say, oh, well, we're going to get rid of the Big Ten Network. We're no longer going to be a conference. After 100 years of branding, marketing, expansion, the creation of a network that could have went pear-shaped, but it didn't. Suddenly they're going to say, oh, nope. For the good of everything, we're just going to abolish the Big Ten, and we're going to have a 72 Super League. We're all going to lock arms. The real world doesn't work that way. Nor should it, by the way. Nor should it. It ain't going to happen. The SEC, Greg Sankey, I know he's getting a lot of... I'm no fan of Greg Sankey because he can't get his president's arms around the fact there needs to be collective bargaining agreement. There needs to be a wholesale changes in college football. But the SEC is not going to say, well, our 16 teams are no longer going to play each other as much as possible, and we're going to go into join the 72 Super League. It is, I would take your phone calls. I would take your comments. I would take your super chats. And I will respect all of your opinions. But this is not happening. It flies in the face of everything that is going on. I'll give you another example. The Big 12. If this is a case of trying to save the sport, why don't the Big 12, what is it, a 16-team member? Why don't you go and invite 8 more G5 schools and become a 24-team conference and have 4 divisions of 6 teams? Why don't you do that? Well, of course the Big 12 won't just do that, because West Virginia is looking out for the best interests of West Virginia. Same thing with Iowa State. Same thing with Baylor. You're looking at the top dollar. You're looking at your own. You've got to look out for yourself. Every conference and every school is trying to get to higher land. Not lower land, higher land. And Ohio State might make that decision 6 years from now. Alabama might make it. Alabama might be saying, well, you know, it's been great having Mississippi State as a conference member, but we're not going to subsidize that. We're going to be looking at higher ground. Alabama might do that. In fact, a whole lot of you, please take this in the kindest way I'm trying to say it, a whole lot of you have been warning me that this might happen. That Michigan might leave Minnesota by the wayside. And I've always said, yes, it could happen. But you can't say that that might happen and then suddenly say, well, Michigan, Ohio State, not only are they not going to leave Minnesota by the wayside, they're going to suddenly bring in 72-team Super League and everybody's going to be locking arms. It's just not happening. Again, the title of the show is The Creation of a 72-Team Super League is a bad joke. It is leading people on. It ain't happening, guys. It's not how it's going to happen, if it happens at all. And it might happen. There might be a Super League. There might be. There's a whole lot of money out there. And they're going to be trying to entice the Michigan, the whole Ohio State, the Georgia, Alabama, Florida, Tennessee, Penn State. They're going to be trying to entice. It might happen. It ain't happening this way. And for those who say, well, great, this is crazy. There is a big money gap. I know there is. I know there is. I know, and I have been, this is why I reported the USC Big Ten talks. This is the motivation of USC. This is the motivation of everybody to try to get to the higher ground. I get it. There's always been a money gap. There's always been a money gap. Within conferences, there's always been a money gap, a resource gap, a recruiting gap. Of course. I mean, you try to beat Michigan and Ohio State and Penn State. I mean, the money, you try to beat Alabama, Georgia. The resource gap is enormous, even when you do share the same media money. It's always been that way. Always been that way. What I am what I try to fight for is access. What I try to fight for is legitimate ability for all schools to manage the roster. What I fight for, look, now they've ripped open the ability for schools to have more than 85 football scholarships. It was just said today that Illinois, they're not going to go above 85 football scholarships. They're not going to spend money on that. They can, but they're not going to. Why? Because if they did, then that would bite into their ability to pay their football players more under the salary cap. The more scholarship players you got, the more you have to spread out the money, the more you're unable to go and spend more for the best players. And also there's a laws of diminishing return. Once you get to a certain number in your football roster, those guys aren't going to be playing. They're not going to be getting reps, so they're going to be going in the portal. I believe no matter how much money, eventually, it's the laws of diminishing return. Michigan, Ohio State, Georgia, they have a big advantage. They've always had the big advantage. But there's still going to be football players out there. There's still going to be really good football players playing for the Big 12 schools, the AC schools, the bottom half of the Big 10, the bottom half of the SEC, the ones that go unrecruited. They go to the G5 schools. And then hopefully in the future, you're going to be able to sign these players for 2, 3, 4 years so you can manage your roster so we can have more parity. But the parity ain't going to come about from a 72-team Super League. It ain't happening. These universities, it's not happening. Okay, so that is the main part of the monologue. But we've got to get to, we're going to be doing a roll call. And you can hammer me and let me know how wrong I got it once again. And, of course, today, for the first time since first time in 2024, Greg the Gold is making an appearance. Greg the Gold's record against the spread is 20 wins, 36 losses. But today, it all turns, baby. It all turns. Week 6, I see locks after locks after locks. Okay, let's do the roll call here. And we got more news to get to. Patrick Bear is in the house. Droid Andrew Keel, AMAC, Matt Neeson, Randy Taylor, Preston from Greensboro, Jeff Morgan, Muggy Wild, John Moore, Crab Cakes and Football, The Walking Geek, Jonathan Price, Bimba 7579 is in the house. Who else is here? Buckshot Kid, Old Dad, Joyful 1, KS Bear Fan, MBM is in the house. My Prof, and we're gonna get into Roman Maroney. We're gonna get into what the Big Ten, the title screen. No Big Ten expansion talks. It's not happening, ladies and gentlemen. There is a reason why on June 15th, we had Petiti walk out of the Holy Smokes Theater. I got raked over the coals by a whole lot of Big Ten fans or fans from Big Ten schools. Again, I get in trouble with everybody. There is no Big Ten expansion talks. There are no deals made with Florida State. We've been telling you the truth, and hopefully that means something. And for the people that have been giving you a bunch of, as my father would used to say, hooey, you'd think someday they would say, I got it wrong. But they're not going to, are they? They're never going to say they got it wrong. Jan is in the house. Kenneth Stormness is in the house. Dante's Inferno Purgatory is in the house. And again, that's not a shot against Florida State. An incredible, valuable brand Florida State is. I got no problems with Florida State other than they don't have a deal to go to the Big Ten or the SEC. They don't have it. They don't have it. They don't have it. You should be able to say it. They don't have it. Because they don't have it. None of the reporters have lied to you. It's not a great conspiracy. The Big Ten doesn't want to expand right now unless Notre Dame picks up the phone and calls them. North Carolina is unable to get free. Mike Alford just said it might take years, the court cases, which we've been saying. There is no deal. There is no Big Ten expansion talks going on. There is no nod, nod, wink, wink, handshake deal. And you should be able to say it if you are tethered to the truth at all. And if you're not tethered to telling the truth, well then, continue on. Charlie Atwood is in the house. Mike Williams is in the house. Jose, USC. This Saturday night is going to be... I don't want to talk about it. I don't even have Minnesota USC as part of the picks today. It's not going to be good. Thomas Moss is in the house. Preston from Greensboro. JBB is in the house. This should happen. Disagree. This should happen for the good of all college athletics and wellness of the student athletes. Greed is winning. Bet is wrong to say. Say it in college sports should not happen. Thank you for the disagreement, JBB. I appreciate it. Again, I ask you. We're talking about greed here. Or are we talking about success here? If this 72-team Super League came about, what are these schools giving up? Or is it only the SEC schools that are giving up something? Is it only the Big Ten schools that are giving up something? Is it greedy? Is it greedy for the ACC not to just have 8 more G5 schools join their conference? Is that greedy? Is it greedy for the Big 12 not to add on 8 more G5 schools today? Is that greedy? Was it greedy that Houston decided to join the Big 12? Was that being greedy? Was it greedy of Brett Yormark to cut in front of the line of the Pac-12 and to secure the future of the Big 12? When they cut in line of the Pac-12, when Brett Yormark played his cards correctly and Kliavkoff did not, was that being greedy? Kill Ball is in the house. Joaquin Morales is here. AG is in the house. Jay Chapman is here. A whole lot of people. Stephen McNeely, Tumasta, the college football guy. Tough Tony, pick USC, Greg, please. I would not be picking Minnesota. I would be picking USC, and even Greg the Iceberg, I do not have the power. We are going to get our doors blown off, Tony. Forget about the last quarter against Michigan. We are not a good matchup for the Trojans. We are not a good matchup, especially when something has happened to our experienced offensive line. This has not been a typical Gopher offensive line. So no, we are not a good matchup for the Trojans. It's going to be absolutely brutal. Andrew Bennett is in the house. Illini Ted is in the house. Greg Nelson is in the house. Terry Kane is here. Anyway, okay, let's get going here. Again, Super League might happen. Super League might happen in 2030-31, but it's going to be happening at the hands and the power of private equity and the top brand schools. And then they're going to be making the decisions on who gets included and all that stuff. Remember, realignment. It never sleeps. Relationships matter. And it starts, the top dominoes start the realignment. When it comes to a Super League, it's not the G5, the couple G5 schools that might get included. It's not ACC schools that are going to start a Super League. It's not the Big 12. It's not going to be the bottom half of the Big 10. It's not going to be the bottom half of the SEC. It's going to be the top 4 or 5 in the SEC and the Big 10 and a private equity. And if they want to make it work, they're going to go make it work. And then they're going to be the ones who make the decisions. It's not happening in this way. And I know there's going to be more of these Super League stuff coming out. And it's okay if you all to talk about it. But I'm going to give you a warning. Unless the Buckeyes or the Bulldogs or Roll Tide or the Wolverines are backing it, and if there's not traction with the biggest brands in football, it's just going to run into nowhere. It's not happening. Just putting it out there. The Saudis, yes. But the Saudis are going to they're going to have to get the Buckeyes on board first. Let's put it that way. Okay, so, again, if you're new to the channel, please subscribe. Smash the like button if you like our content. Preston from Greensboro, thank you so much for your incredible generosity. I'm close to retirement just from betting the opposite of Greg the Gold. Holy smokes. Wow. 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 Well, Preston from Greensboro and everybody else in the chat room, you are going to see absolute brilliance today. Absolute brilliance today. We're going to talk about Hawaii. We're going to talk to you about the no Big Ten expansion. We're going to talk about how the Pac-12 is waiting on expansion. We're going to talk all about that, but first we got to get to our selections, and then we got more to talk about. in college football. And keep your head on a swivel. There might be breaking news as we're doing this live show. But first, the PATC community. You guys make the selection first this week. Last week, I made the selection. And then you guys went opposite of most of my selections. And that is why you guys leaped out to a 3-game lead over me. So, this week, you guys are making the pick first. And we begin with UNLV. I believe this is a tomorrow night's game, I believe. Does UNLV cover the -6.5 point spread versus Syracuse? If you say yes, you're taking UNLV. If you're taking no, you're taking Kyle McCord and the Orange. A very important game for the Rebels. The voting starts now. We got 8 games this week. Not 12, not 10. We're only going with 8. I found 8 games that I love. 8 games that I should be able to turn the corner. Greg the Gold should be making his first appearance. Gonna give everybody 5 more seconds to vote. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Going in overtime. Oh, there it is. Yes. UNLV. PATC community takes UNLV. 52%. Wow. That was a close one. PATC takes the Rebels. Now we're going to Missouri at Texas A&M. A monster game in the SEC. Both of them undefeated in the SEC. Texas A&M has got 1 loss against Notre Dame. Missouri is undefeated. Big game. Does Texas A&M cover -2.5 point spread at home versus Missouri? The voting begins now. Yes, you're taking Texas A&M and you're giving the 2.5 points. No, you're taking Missouri plus 2.5. Stephen McNeely, who is Greg the Gold? Has anyone ever seen this guy? You're going to see him this week, Stephen. That's all I'm going to say. It's all I'm going to say right now. Going to give everybody 5 more seconds. It's another close vote. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. We're going in overtime. 52 yes. Texas A&M. Again, both the first 2 games, first 2 picks, UNLV and Texas A&M went into overtime. Holy smokes. The PATC community so far has been split on the first 2 games. We've got SMU at Louisville. Louisville is favored by 7 points. Does Louisville cover Does Louisville cover the -7-point spread versus SMU? Yes, you're taking Louisville. No, you're taking SMU. The voting begins now. Five more seconds. Another close vote. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Bam. 53% says no. SMU. The PATC community takes SMU to cover the 7 points. Wow. Wow. Finally, we're doing a Buckeye game. The Ohio State Buckeyes and the Iowa Hawkeyes. The Buckeyes are favored by 20 points. Wow. Does Ohio State cover the -20-point spread versus Iowa? The voting begins now. If you take yes, you're taking the Buckeyes. If you say no, you're taking the Hawkeyes. The voting begins now. Very interesting game. That 20-point spread. The over-under is 45. So what they're thinking, it's going to be a 32-12 game in Vegas. 32-12. 5 more seconds. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. 55% says no. The PATC community has taken the Iowa Hawkeyes. Very interesting. Ole Miss coming off that loss against Kentucky. South Carolina blew the doors off of Kentucky earlier in the year, and the game was at Kentucky. This game is at South Carolina. A most interesting game and a most interesting line. Ole Miss is favored by 9.5. Does Ole Miss cover 9.5-point spread versus South Carolina Gamecocks? The voting begins now. Voting 5 more seconds. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. 64% says no. This was a big vote of confidence for South Carolina from the PATC community. PATC believes that South Carolina is going to cover the 9.5-point spread. Man, is that an interesting game. And boy, is that an important game. A very important game. Very important game in the SEC. Clemson at Florida State. Well, we know the story of Florida State. We know Clemson is looks like they're starting to churn a little bit better here. Klubnik is starting to play a little bit better here, but it's a rivalry game. 14.5 points is a whole heck of a lot of points. Wow, wow, wow. This is going to be very interesting. I am going to be watching this vote very carefully. Does Clemson cover the minus 14.5 point spread versus Florida State? If you take yes, you're taking Clemson and you're given 14.5. If you vote no, you're taking Florida State and 14.5 points. The voting begins now. And right now we have a landslide. We have a landslide. There's going to have to be some serious ballot stuffing to even this up. 5 more seconds. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. By 83% to 17. The PATC community has spoken with one voice. Clemson Tigers are going to cover the 14.5 point spread. We are not leaving. We are not leaving the ACC. No, we're not. No, we're not. Miami of Florida at California. Miami's going way out there to Berkeley. Does Miami cover the minus 10.5 point spread? Whoops, 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 whoops. Versus California. If you say yes, you're giving 10.5 points to Cali. If you're voting no, that means you want California to get the 10.5 points. The voting begins now. Terry Kane says it's easy money. Jeff Morgan. Oh, that's Charleston Southern. Okay. I'm going to give everybody 5 more seconds to vote. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. 59% of you say Miami. We got one more game to go. And we're going into Big 12 country. A sneaky important game. A sneaky important game. Arizona with the Big 12 win last week. Texas Tech sitting at the top of the standings. Does the Red Raiders, do they got it going? The Red Raiders go to the Wildcats. The spread is 6. The over-under is going to be 64. There's going to be a whole lot of points. Who's got the ball last? Can the Red Raiders do a backdoor cover? A lot of questions. A lot of questions. Does Arizona cover minus 6 point spread versus Texas Tech? Interesting game. If you vote yes, you're taking Arizona and you're happy to give the 6 points. If you're voting no, that means you're taking the 6 and Texas Tech. The voting begins now. 5 more seconds. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. 53% say yes. The PATC community takes Arizona. Okay, so final result. We're only doing 8 games. We're only doing 8 games because I only felt comfortable with these 8 games. There's a whole bunch of them out there that nope. I'm being more selective. I'm being more selective this week. I'm 3 games behind the PATC community. I've got to catch up. This is the week I start catching up. You guys took UNLV, Texas A&M, SMU, Iowa, South Carolina, Clemson, Miami, and Arizona. Okay. So what am I going to do? I'm going to go quickly here because we got a lot more to talk about. Syracuse at UNLV. The Rebels -6.5. This game, they hit adversity. They might win the game, but they're going to win it by a last-second field goal. Or they're going to just barely hang on. Or they're going to lose. Either way, it's the Syracuse Orangemen that are going to cover. I will be happy to take the 6.5 points. I will be happy to take the 6.5 points. Missouri at Texas A&M. Texas A&M is favored by 2.5, but I can't go there. I'm taking Missouri. Missouri is going to cover. I'll take the 2.5. And now I do have to look. In my opinion, and I think the opinion of Las Vegas, is that Missouri has been underperforming a tad. So I need them to elevate their game a bit here. I need them to elevate their game, but this is this should be a declaration. Missouri should be in the hunt for a college football playoff bid. There should be that 4th or 5th SEC team. There should be on the bubble. They should win this game on the road. SMU at Louisville. Boy, this is a tough game, but I'm taking Louisville. I think they'll cover. I think they'll respond. Tough loss to Notre Dame. I've got Louisville. Ohio State at Iowa. I've got all the respect in the world for the Hawkeyes, but this is when the Buckeyes really start their season. I think they're going to pour it on in the second half. Hawkeyes offense is going to get stopped. Caleb Johnson is going to break a couple good runs, no question about it. But the Buckeyes win this game by 30. I've got Ohio State. Ole Miss, South Carolina. I agree with the PATC community. I'm taking South Carolina. I think the Gamecocks are going to get this game into something of a rock fight, and I got to see Ole Miss win a rock fight type of game, especially 9.5 points. I've got South Carolina. Clemson at Florida State, man. I've been going back and forth. Back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. I think it's a tough spot for the backup quarterback, Florida State. I'm taking Clemson. I agree with the PATC community. And surprisingly enough, this is another tough game. And I'm going to surprise a lot of people here. I took Miami last week and they did not cover. I think a lot of people forget that the Hurricanes were almost a 20-point favorite against Virginia Tech. And that defense was nowhere to be found for most of that game. I think California's going to score. I think Miami of Florida, I think this is going to be a very tight, close game. So, of course, I'm going to take the 10.5 points. I've got California. And Texas Tech versus Arizona, I don't remember who it was. If it was AMAC or my prof, somebody in the chat room said Texas Tech just doesn't play good on the road. I agree. I'm taking Arizona. So, I've got Syracuse. You all got UNLV. I got Missouri. You all got Texas A&M. I got Louisville. You all got SMU. I've got Ohio State. You've got Iowa. We both have South Carolina. We both have Clemson. I've got California. You got Miami. We both got Arizona. So we only agree with 3 out of the 8 games. 5 of the games we disagree. So I anticipate that I'm going to be gaining some ground on the PATC community, and Greg the Gold is going to be making his first appearance. I'm going to be strutting on a late Saturday Night Live show or an early Monday, Sunday show. I am going to be strutting into the studio as for the first time, Greg the Gold. Greg going to be falling behind. Greg is already behind. I just can't go farther behind. I can't. I'm 20 and 36 against the spread. The PATC community is 23 and 33 against the spread. We're gonna cover a few more stories, and then we're gonna get to your phone calls, super chats, and everything else that is going on here. As been reported yesterday by Ross Dellinger, the Pac-12 needs one more full member to reach FBS qualification. The expectation is that the league will explore media rights packages with its current 8 members before adding more schools at a later date. No serious negotiations currently happening, per those with knowledge. So yes, there's probably talks between Miami, Pac-12, Tulane, Pac-12, but there's no real serious negotiations. Ross Dellinger has reported this. Everybody has reported the same information. The Pac-12 is meeting with their media partners, trying to get a media package. Maybe that will be an enticement for Memphis to join, a Tulane to join. We'll find out in a month or so, I think. But right now, I do not expect anything big happening when it comes to the Pac-12 in realignment. Sankey Super League, we've talked about this. I did a whole big monologue at the start of the show. I really don't, it's just not going to happen. It ain't going to happen. But I'll let you all talk about it if you want some more, speculate on it, call me and tell me I'm wrong, that it has to happen, it needs to happen. I'm just, it just ain't going to happen. The SEC is not going to rip up that banner behind Sankey's head. It goes against, it just isn't going to happen. And by the way, you know what? I'm not going to go down that road. And Scott Dochterman, again this morning, Big Ten Commissioner Tony Petitti, there has been no discussion at all related to future expansion. June 15th, in the Holy Smokes Theater, we reported that Tony Petitti walked out. So did Sankey. We said, slow down, you move too fast. On all these reports, the Big Ten is not interested in expansion. There is no agreement with any school. If Notre Dame calls, then things will change. But it just ain't happening right now. There's too many things going on. The Big Ten's trying to figure it out. Advisory board with the SEC. We talked about this in June. PATC got raked over the coals, and now it's become clear to everybody, hopefully, that there's been no agreement, no nods, no wink, wink. Hey, school, you're in the Big Ten. None of that has happened. It was all made up, or it was bad information. But again, everybody who's reported this, none of them has taken the L. Not one of them. They just keep going, pretending they never said what they said. No expansion going on. No talks going on right now. And there isn't. There's a whole bunch of other talks going on. There's a whole bunch of other things that the Big Ten is trying to figure out. Yeah, I did see it. What Justin Lucas was referring to is, you see that interview from Alford that felt like a message to the Florida State fan base. Michael Alford basically said that the court cases could take for years, and that people are telling him, why doesn't Florida State just leave? And he says it's not that easy. They're not going to leave unless they know they have their media rights with them. They're not going to... And we've talked about this before. There is one way for Florida State to leave. There is one way. And that might not even work. But they have one avenue. They have one avenue. Florida State and Clemson, right now they have one avenue. Beyond a court victory, which is going to get appealed anyways. Which is going to go on and on and on. But they do have something in their control that they can do. They can write a massive check to the ACC. They can go up there and they can say, we'll write you. We got private equity cash, whatever. We're going to give you 550 million smacks, 600 smacks, whatever. The problem with that is, if Florida State and Clemson are the only two teams that leave, then they're not going to the Big Ten or the SEC. They know they need the complete implosion of the ACC for them to have a chance to get to the SEC or the Big Ten. If they write that massive check and they leave, they're the only ones out the door because no one else is going to write that massive check. All those other ACC teams are just going to collect that money until it gets closer to the gore, and then some other ACC teams will leave. If all that happens, their only options are to go independent or go to the Big 12. You see, the reporters actually wrote the truth. They reported the truth. There was no games. There was no conspiracy. Brett McMurphy's reporting was absolutely correct. So was ours. Ross Dellinger actually spilled the truth. Kind of backtracked a little bit, but he spilled the truth. Other people have spilled the truth. It's just the way it is. So Florida State and Clemson, really, if they want to get to a Power 2, they need the whole conference to implode, and for that, it's going to take time. And Michael Alford told the fan base in this interview, it's going to take time. It's going to take time. So again, I got something to say about that as well. Now you guys are just getting me riled up. I'm going to make a comment on that. I'm going to make a comment on that. But now I lost my train of thought, what I was talking about. Okay, I'll just get to this. Here's the deal. People here, we've said this. We said this like 4 or 5 times. I looked into the camera and I said, Gonzaga is going to end up in the Pac-12. Go check out our live show the night before it became official. 2 nights, 3 nights, whatever. I looked right in the camera and I said it 4 or 5 times. It's accurate reporting when you report that Gonzaga is going to believe in the WCC and going to be joining the Pac-12. That is accurate reporting. Brett McMurphy did not say it was official. He did not say the votes were cast. He said Gonzaga will be leaving for the Pac-12. And then he got raked over the coals. And then the people who did the raking over the coals can't ever say, he was right. Sorry, my bad. Nobody seems to be able to, I say it. And then, and here's another thing. Then the athletic director comes out and says, well, I didn't know about it. Brett McMurphy must be Nostradamus. And then everybody's using that. Nicole Auerbach and other people are using that comment to say that, yeah, Brett McMurphy did not have the story, whatever, blah, 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 blah. Gonzaga had somebody at Gonzaga made the decision that they were going to the Pac-12 a couple weeks ago. Sometime on or before September 23rd. And it wasn't the athletic director. Hint, hint, wink, wink. And that's all I can say about that. Yeah, that fly. The fly is still here. The fly is still in the studio. Okay, I think we've covered everything. Give us a call. Phone lines are open. Tell me what you think about your game this week. 763-260-1333. There was no way that we were going to make the pick. What is the line on Rutgers and Nebraska? I don't remember what the line is. But there was no way that I was going to pick that game. Come on, guys. Come on. I have no idea what... Nebraska's first game against a team with a pulse, they lost at home to Illinois. Rutgers is a team with the pulse. You got to throw away the Nebraska-Purdue game. I have no idea what Nebraska's going to do against Rutgers. There's a whole bunch of games like that. A whole bunch of games. I was paralyzed this week. Absolutely paralyzed. Navy Air Force was another game.
From
Ryan.
Ryan, the floor is yours. Thanks for calling. Let it rip.
Hey, how's it going, Greg?
I'm doing good. How are you doing, sir?
Good. Hey, I just wanted to call. It's kind of more just showering you with praise for the way you report. I missed the calling you a while back when there was a lawyer for Florida State that was saying essentially there was false propaganda that they could end up in the Big 12 kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, okay, well, maybe that has some merit. And then your story came out, and I just had the title. It was just the title where you were debunking it, just in the title. I'm like, okay, I trust Greg. I didn't even watch the show before I'd already made my decision, because you have honestly proved your integrity, and you've proved your sources. And I want to shower you with praise, and also your sources. Wherever they are, they've always given us a great peek around the corner, and
I appreciate it. I appreciate it. I appreciate those kind words. I just want to make something clear, though. I had never said that Florida State's going to the Big 12. Now, the Florida State money perch, quite interesting, who's nailed every part of the story, he believes that's where they're going to end up. But I have never said that. There's been the chatter behind the curtain is not saying that. The chatter behind the curtain, when I'm talking about chatter behind the curtain, the reporters and all this, look, Florida State has had third-party talks with Brett Yormark. That has happened. So has Clemson. That has happened. So has Louisville. That has most definitely happened. More than once. All I'm saying is that the Florida State Clemson had those talks to create another possible option, to see if there was enough interest there. But the problem is, and I also reported that those talks were quite aggressive. In other words, they might have gone over the line a little bit, allegedly, because the situation that Florida State and Clemson is if they would ever go to the Big 12, okay, they would need the Big 12 to belly up at the bar and fray those costs and make it worth their while. And to be able to get all that communication done, boy, that goes quickly from third-party talks to first-party talks, lawyers. And they can't quite get there, or maybe they did a little bit. So it's difficult. Yeah, I have no problem with Florida State lawyers or people or fans saying Florida State is no way ever going to the Big 12. I get it. Makes a lot of sense. And they might be absolutely correct. But the only thing I can do, I don't have the crystal ball. What I can do is give you the peek around the corner. And I reported it a couple weeks before Ross Dellinger let it slip. I reported it a couple weeks before the Big 12 Media Days, where that's what they were all talking about, all those reporters at the Big 12 Media Days. Or was it the ACC Media Days? I think it was Big 12 Media Days, where this word spread that there had been these third-party talks, because there had been, because I found out about it 2 weeks prior. So Florida State, Clemson, trying to create another option, but they may never go to the Big 12. They probably won't go to the Big 12, but it is an option that they have fleshed out. But go ahead, sir.
Yeah, no, I'm glad that you throw out stuff, and I think that a lot of people want to discount you, but I'm like, you went through that with the whole Pac-12 ordeal. And honestly, every time you got the slightest thing, even off, even if you weren't wrong, you're like, hey, we thought this was going to happen 2 weeks from now. It happened now. We'll take that out, right? Nobody does that. And that's why I respect you. And
I appreciate it.
And I know if you ever are wrong, you're going to be the first one to say it, right? And so you have my absolute respect. And I, like I said, the second I saw your title, okay, well, there's not a coordinated effort of misinformation, because Greg said no, and he's proven himself, and I'm going to go with that. And it didn't even take you actually watching the video, after I had watched the video, like, even validated it further. But, like, that's where I am with you, and just want to thank you for your integrity with how you're doing and for giving us the peek around the corner. And thank you for any of your sources that might be listening for trusting Greg and giving us the peek around the corner, because we love it.
I appreciate those kind words, and you haven't thanked me for my 20-36 record against the spread yet, but I'll let that pass. I will let that pass.
Okay. Well, have a great day, Greg.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. Very kind words. I look at these 8 games. I mean, the South Carolina game, there's 2 games that I might have problems. I'm going no less than 6-2.
Call from
Jason Kelly.
Jason Kelly, Mr. UNLV. Can you hold on for just one moment, please?
No problem.
I appreciate it. Opie, maybe Greg Flugar, you should bet that fly will stay in your studio, and then he will leave voluntarily. The fly is even odds of staying. Thank you for the incredible super chat, Opie. I love your creativeness in your comments. Yeah. Well, look, it's one fly. It's the same fly you guys see every day. I'm too slow to kill it. Winter is coming here in Minnesota. This studio, it's in the back of the garage. Got a nice little studio, got a wall between me and the garage, but it is going to get cool in here. So that fly's days are numbered, but I'm too fat, old, and slow to catch it. I don't even think I own a fly swatter. The wife, of course, she won't kill it because she doesn't believe in killing flies. So here I am. It's me and the fly. So you're going to see it probably a little bit, unfortunately, probably for a little bit while longer. Thank you, Opie. I appreciate it. Mr. Jason Kelly, thank you for calling. Thank you for your patience. UNLV, what's the news? What's going on? Mountain West, you're getting a big old check. And you got a backup quarterback who might be the superstar that leads your team to the playoffs. The floor is yours.
Sure. So thanks for covering the story. Couple of things. So I've been, with what limited. I mean, I don't have any influence really at all. But there are people from the athletic department that know my podcast is growing, that see my audience is growing, and I have been banging the drum that I think our athletic director is fat and lazy, and does not need to take a check from the Mountain West. All he needs to do, there's plenty of money. There's plenty more than $25 million in the city of Las Vegas. Get off your butt and go fundraise it. You don't need to take it from the Mountain West. You're holding your future back because you're too lazy to go out and hit the ground and fundraise. And that's been the story about Eric Harper ever since he was hired. He was a budget hire who doesn't work very hard. So I'm very critical of him. I think that they're making the absolute wrong decision. Yeah. At the same time, from listening to Jose Cansano and just trying to kind of read the tea leaves around the situation, the Pac-12 was determined not to overpay for UNLV. When they took those first 4 schools, they did not believe that they needed UNLV from the Mountain West at all. And again, reading the ESPN article that came out the other day, and then also just talking to a couple people close to our athletic director, that deeply offended the university. They're like, well, we're Vegas. What do you mean you don't need us? And so it's really unfortunate, this whole situation. I think the Pac-12 made a mistake. I'd love to know if you think that the Pac-12 is undervaluing UNLV. And also, I'll say this for this game on Friday tomorrow against Syracuse, UNLV's secondary is elite. It's very good. It'll be I think the Syracuse offense is a little one-dimensional. You see they don't have a game where they've broken 100 yards rushing yet.
Yeah, and I like their running back. I like their running back. So I don't know what's going on there. But yeah, go on. LeQuint. Yep.
So I'll just say I think that the Rebels have a very good chance. I would take the over. I think that the Rebels are going to win by more than a touchdown. And I think that also the UNLV defense is good enough that they're going to be able to make the Syracuse offense, which will be good, which will score points, but they're going to be able to make that offense be a little one-dimensional. And I think they're going to be able to force a turnover or two. But Kyle McCord's incredible. You never know what could happen. But I just did want to know your thoughts on whether you think the Pac-12 made a mistake by undervaluing Las Vegas. I think they did, but I'm also a homer. So our football program, I think our football program's in a stronger position than Utah State, San Diego State, Colorado State. You could make an argument that obviously Boise State is very strong and Fresno State has some history there, but of course we did just absolutely mollywop them and took them to the woodshed. So do you think they made a mistake? And that's my biggest question for you. And there's a lot of hurt feelings down at UNLV's campus right now. There's a lot of bitterness between the schools that left and UNLV, and they didn't want to be like Utah State and pay a huge exit fees and get on all fours and beg the Pac-12 to take them. UNLV did not want to do that. So, that's kind of what I'm thinking. I want to know what you think.
Okay. Well, I've already, speaking of taking the L, we had to take an L on this. Months and months and months ago, we reported that Oregon State and Washington State were doing valuations, which they were, and we do this Holy Smokes Theater bit where we talk about the drama of college football and we explain what's going on inside a theater, and we've broken a lot of stories that way. This one, we had 6 teams up on the stage. It was Boise State at the center, Fresno State, Colorado State, San Diego State, and then the 2 that were off to the side was UNLV and Air Force. We were told that those were the 6 teams that Oregon State and Washington State would take from the Mountain West. And then they would go and try to add more from the AAC, but they were going to get the 8 first. That did not happen. And I don't know what happened. But we got it wrong here at Peek Around the Corner. They took the 4, but they didn't take UNLV and they didn't take Utah State, and maybe they were playing hardball with UNLV. I'm talking about the Pac-2, right? Maybe they were playing hardball with UNLV and Air Force. But we don't know what happened. I don't know what happened. I don't get it. I do think they're undervaluing UNLV. I mean, they had them as the 5th most valuable in their valuations. We were told that. And I think you kind of see that because everyone was talking about UNLV after the 4 were taken, that they should be the next one. How the athletic director made the decision and all that, you would know way more than I would, the local angle of it. But yeah, I am surprised that UNLV is still a Mountain West school. I am. And I think it's a mistake from both sides. We were actually told the reasons why UNLV was the 5th most valued member of the Mountain West in the eyes of the Pac-2. And we actually went through it. We actually said, forget about everything else. People talk. I'm not going to go down that rabbit hole. The sponsorship money, the money that's in Las Vegas, is still going to be, some of that's still going to be available to the Pac-12. But if UNLV is a member of the conference, you're gaining so much than what you're losing on other metrics that you can have on UNLV and these other schools. So I've been banging the drum for UNLV for months as the 5th one to add on. And I think maybe if UNLV did the bend the knee and maybe they just took the deal I think maybe they would have been chasing. I really do, but I don't know that for sure. Um, I think that
Yeah.
is I think the I think the Mountain West comes out better than I thought because they able to keep UNLV. They were able to keep Air Force. And I think Utah State is the big winner when it comes to individual schools because they jumped in the Pac-2, and that should be UNLV's spot. Does that answer your question?
Well, I just think that Navigate, this firm that's running the Pac-12, I think that they're just obviously their top value is brand. That's what they want. They want brand. They want recent buy-in by not just the university, obviously, because UNLV is investing a ton from the university side, but they want buy-in from the community. And UNLV just needs like 2 or 3 more years of proof that there is going to be buy-in. But I think that they're undervaluing, and I think this is what's killing them in the AAC stuff. They're undervaluing geography. They're undervaluing facilities. They're undervaluing, using Las Vegas as a central nervous system of the conference. There is no easier university to get to from a major airport than UNLV in the country. There's no university that's as close to as convenient. And they may believe they can use the city of Las Vegas without UNLV. Totally fine. They can have their media days there. But with UNLV, you get access to public facilities in the city, which are a lot cheaper than trying to rent out T-Mobile. I think that UNLV is worth more than Colorado State. I think they're worth more than Fresno State. San Diego State and Boise State, I totally understand why those schools are the highest valued. I agree with that assessment. But I think that the Pac-12 made a mistake here, and obviously I'm a homer saying that. So, you can take it or leave it. But if you were pitching Memphis and the AAC schools with UNLV already a part of the conference, travel becomes easier. You can use Las Vegas as a hub. You can host tournaments there. You have a guaranteed place you have the best venue, maybe in the country, for a college basketball conference tournament, because the Thomas and Mack is a quarter a mile away from the airport. And I just feel like the pitch to the AAC schools would have been so much easier. But specifically, Boise State and San Diego State, and I can tell you this firsthand, those 2 universities really dislike UNLV. They really dislike them. And I think inviting them in, I think that's half the reason why. They do not like us. They do not think they need us. And I think it's unfortunate because the Pac-12 would be in a lot better state. I can guarantee you that the Pac-12 would be in a lot better state had they had UNLV in that initial 4 instead of Colorado State, or if they would have just had 5 initially. And I may be a homer, but, we clearly have the second strongest football program in the conference right now. And I think it's just insane. And I think UNLV is making a big mistake because they got their little feelings hurt because our athletic director got in his feels and they got their feelings hurt and weren't willing to take the leap. And I also think he's lazy and isn't willing to do the fundraising effort necessary here in town. And I just think it's a massive mistake. Now, maybe the Big Ten and SEC thing happens and all of this means nothing, but it's so dumb to see the Pac-12, maybe to a lesser extent, but the Pac-12 and UNLV signing their own death warrants because they're not willing to come together and work together. And I think that's kind of what's happening. Not that the Pac-12 is going to die, not that UNLV is going to die in the Mountain West, but this was such a no-brainer, man. This was such a no-brainer, and they're effing it up on both sides.
Yep. I completely understand. I'm getting a lot of buffering here. Man, oh man. I thought we had fixed that problem. Yeah, I get it, man. I agree with you. I don't know what happened. So that's all I can say. I think we'll get the story at some point. But we thought that was locked in.
Thank you. I appreciate you. Yep. That's all I had to say. So
appreciate
you,
the
man.
phone call, man. Thank you. Couple things I've got to do here real quick. Hold on, everybody. Hold on. Hold on, everybody. I got to do some... Okay. That should help somewhat. Yeah, we're getting some buffering. I did make one little adjustment for this live show that I thought would work, so I'm thinking I might have screwed up. But anyways, I appreciate the phone call from Jason Kelly, UNLV. I hope he calls again. Tough situation. One thing I want to get to here, Jay Go Blue. I will get to you super chat in a moment. Kenneth Evans, big thumb down on this video. I got no problem. I got no problem with you saying that. But then you went and called me a jackass because of supposedly Big Ten hubris. I tell you guys, again, I don't mind, and now you're gone. I mean, I don't mind the disagreement. We disagree all the time in the show, but you don't come on here and call me a jackass and expect to be able to be a part of the PATC community. I explain the reasons why that I don't think the 72 team league is ever gonna happen. You're expecting the Big Ten. I went through it all. I have gone after the Big Ten many, many times and will continue to do so. But this time, I couldn't do it. I completely understand why the Big Ten and the SEC would not even look at this type of deal. Most of you disagree with me in the chat, but there's only one person who's called me a jackass for it, kid. You can't just go on chat rooms and start calling the host that and expect to remain a member of the community. Big thumbs down on this video. I absolutely understand. But the name calling, you're gone. That's just the way it is. Okay. Again, this channel is not for everybody. It isn't. Jay Go Blue. By the way, I've been very difficult on Michigan. Very difficult on Michigan. Very difficult on Big Ten a lot of times on this channel. Greg, been wondering, Miami, Big Ten, still something? I think there is a big opportunity that there will be something. But not now, but yeah, I think Miami is one of the candidates. No question about it, for Big Ten expansion. Miami is definitely one of the major candidates for Big Ten expansion. Thank you, Renee. I appreciate it. Yeah, because there's a lot of people watching the live show and they continue to watch it, which I love. Thank you very much. And when that happens, there's more ads. But I do appreciate it. Are you guys still seeing the... I did, well, that's what I did. I did reduce the quality. That's what I did on this show. I went from stream latency from ultra low to low, and it hasn't made a difference. So, I don't know. It is what it is. It is what it is. Okay, we're going to open up the phone lines again. 763-260-1333. Jay Go Blue, thank you so much for your generosity. Appreciate it. But yeah, when the doors open up again on expansion, be it a year from now, 2 years from now, because of a settlement, because of victory in the courts, or just because the number of years have gone by, I think you should be looking at Miami.
From
Movie Time Blues.
Movie Time Blues, the floor is yours. Thanks for calling, sir. Appreciate it.
Yes, I want to comment on the discussion about adding Hawaii as a full member of the Mountain West Conference.
Ah, yes. Thanks for bringing that up. Thank you, sir. Go ahead.
Yeah, that tells me that the Mountain West Conference is content with having maybe just 8 members and not feeling pressure to add schools from the FCS level. If they have the minimum, then that takes away the leverage from the likes of Tarleton or Sacramento State or any other FCS program.
Yes.
Yeah,
go ahead.
And then when we look at the programs like North Dakota and South Dakota State, now that they will get the 8 minimum, it's not going to be as critical to them to add those programs unless they're willing to negotiate some kind of a football-only schedule.
Yeah. Very interesting.
And then,
go ahead.
Yeah, and then for Sacramento State's standpoint, now we're seeing why they're wanting to go to the Pac first, because they must have learned that that the Mountain West was going to talk with Hawaii before they talk with Sacramento.
Yeah, pretty interesting. So the Mountain West, in discussions, deep discussions with Hawaii, to become a full member.
Yes.
And so that would make it so the Mountain West would be at their minimum 8 schools. Yes. All I can tell you is that we have been told that peek around the corner, we've been saying this for quite a while, that the Mountain West is looking at more than 8 schools, that they need a little bit of a buffer. They want strength in numbers. They're going to go to at least 10. But maybe that changes with Hawaii. I don't think so, but maybe it will. And if it does, we'll take the L here. But we've been told the Mountain West is going to go more than 8. The Hawaii thing is an interesting. They have become, Hawaii's content has become more valuable over time because of gambling, right? It's that game that it's the last game when they're playing at home, and it gives more opportunities for, the gambling industry and people are watching the content. And so Hawaii, with the proliferation of gambling across the country, not just in Vegas, now other states, and the Hawaii content has become more valuable to the Mountain West Conference and to its media partner. So that's why Hawaii doesn't look like it's going to be left at the side of the road. But go ahead, Movie Time Blues. Go ahead and finish it up.
What about the angle about Hawaii being a pathway to reaching the East Asian and the Pacific Island markets? Like from all the way to Guam, maybe hitting the Asian markets. That may be another possibility
I don't
of
think that market's too interested in college football. Maybe some of those markets would be interested in the baseball aspect, but I don't think there's much there.
all right.
Yeah.
So now Sacramento, they're gonna have to hope that the Pac-12 is not able to get an agreement with programs from the Americans, because if the Pac were to able to make a deal with certain programs from the American, then there goes their entire leverage.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. 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 I mean, I'm not a believer in the Sacramento State thing, but it looks like they're making a big effort. I just don't see how the Pac-12. I don't see how their media partners. I know it's a big market and everything, but I don't know how you do 3 California schools in an 8-team Pac-12. I don't see how that works. They should be not. I'm not a big believer in the Sacramento State bid to become a Pac-12 member, but other people are. So we'll see what happens.
All right. I'll talk to you later.
Yeah, appreciate the call, man. Thank you.
Okay.
Thanks. I get it. I mean, there's a lot of, especially people out in the West Coast are telling me, Greg, you're missing it. You're missing it. Maybe I am. I just don't see it. T-Town Hawk, Greg, Andy Koltonicki is a native Minnesotan. Any chance he gets a look at Minnie if things completely off the track this year?
From
Zach.
I'm sorry, what was the name?
Zach.
Zach? Can
Yeah.
you hold on? Can you hold on for a moment?
Yeah.
Appreciate it. Just the Koltonicki thing. First of all, PJ Fleck's not going to get. He's just not going to get let go. He's not on the hot seat. Not for the administration. Just not. This is not going to happen. The year after 2025, possibly. Andy Koltonicki, I think he's from Litchfield, Minnesota, if I remember correctly. I don't know if he's got really any other. I don't want to get too deep into it. I don't know if he's really got any attachment to Minnesota. I know at one point there was a decision that Koltonicki and his family had to make when it came to getting a job back at Minnesota or versus getting a job somewhere else, and they went somewhere else. And so I don't know if that's going to play a large part in it. I will say this. And I said this last year. I think this is the first year. I've said this a couple years, for the last few years. I think this is the first year where Kansas really has to worry about their head coach, Leipold. And I don't want to get too deep in the weeds with that, but I think they may have a little bit more freedom, a little bit more space to make another move if Lance and his wife whatever decide. But there's situation like his son is a senior quarterback this year, high school, he's going to college, and all I know for the last couple of years, anytime the Kansas head coach was mentioned on the hot board, I would say, don't think he's going to do it. I don't think he's leaving Kansas. One of those reasons was because of his family, but some of that is clearing up. So I think, I'm not saying that Leipold's looking for another job. I'm saying this coming up year is really the first time that it could possibly happen. That's all I'm saying. Andy Koltonicki, all I know is when he was the offensive coordinator at Kansas, you would have all this pre-snap movement. And I'm not saying they don't have that now, but when Koltonicki was the old Kansas guys were going everywhere. I saw the defense always have to make audibles, and Kansas would gash the other team. You don't see that now this year, and of course, the quarterback is struggling. I don't know how much of that is without Koltonicki or not, but anyways, I think caller Zach, are you still on the line? The floor is yours.
Yes, I am. So hi, Greg. I'm a second-time caller. I love what you do. Talking about college football. I wanted to talk about the CUSA now since has left, and what they could possibly do to get back up to 12. Now, I know for the longest time they were talking to Tarleton State of FCS about moving up. And I know the Mountain West was talking about it as well. Would you consider the Mountain West to be a more viable option for a school like that just recently moved up to FCS, or would you consider the CUSA to kind of be their option?
Well, here's the deal. I made an early Pete Cloak and Dagger episode, member only, during the Conference USA expansion, where I reported that in the next 6 weeks it was either going to be Tarleton State or Missouri State, and the announcement was going to be made in the next 6 weeks. And it was made 5 weeks after, and it was Missouri State. So Tarleton and Conference USA have already had these deep discussions. Okay? So they already went through all this. And now with Conference USA losing UTEP, I would put my chips in the middle of the table and having Tarleton go to Conference USA instead of the Mountain West. Having said that, you've got UTEP going to the Mountain West. Mountain West might want another Texas team to go with it. But if I had to just bet on it, I would say they would go to the Conference USA.
And that's what I was thinking as well. If the Mountain West would go after another Texas team, I would think Sam Houston is that option, just because they're in the same conference with UTEP, and you can maybe have a travel partner. Again, I don't know how far away Sam Houston is from UTEP or from, New Mexico or something like that. Second, I want to talk about CUSA. If more teams leave, would you just consider the CUSA to be dead at that point? Or will they try to keep backfilling until they can?
Well, I think that is the G6 conference that is most vulnerable for complete annihilation. But I don't think I think they're going to be able to survive. I think they're going to be able to backfill. I don't think that. We've always been told for the last 3, 4, 5 years that the Dakota schools are not interested in playing at Conference USA. They'd want to go to the Mountain West. Eventually, there's going to be no FCS programs that are going to want to pay that $5 million to backfill on Conference USA. So that is something to worry about. But I think for now, Conference USA is going to survive. I think there's enough options for it to survive. The media money is not gonna, it's never gonna be big. It's gonna be. I think they survive, but it's something that is the conference that needs to worry, not the Sun Belt, not the MAC. So,
yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if the American tries to be like a Liberty, just because I know they're a good brand. And at that point, who do you really have left in the conference as a premier G5 brand besides Liberty in that conference.
You broke up. What Liberty going where?
No, I said if I was the American, I would maybe consider looking at Liberty, adding Liberty.
Yeah, well, I have often said that I think the American Athletic Conference, whatever they do next, I think James Madison's going to be a part of it.
I just don't see James Madison leaving the Sun Belt. I know the Sun Belt has pretty much built their brand in the past couple of years to be one of the best premier conferences.
Yeah.
So I just don't see that right now, especially because they just moved to the conference as well.
Well, they just became...
But I do.
Okay, go ahead.
I do see your point though of their addition to that conference.
Yeah, I'm now. James Madison has just become eligible. Are they eligible? I think they are eligible this year, right?
Yeah, they're eligible this year. Yeah, they're eligible.
So, so now their value is just gone up. I don't know. I think if the AAC got the go ahead from their media partner, I think all I'm saying is the next time the AAC expands, I think people are going to have to keep an eye on James Madison.
And Virginia is a market I think the AAC wants to get into as well. That's one of the few markets on the East Coast that they're not really in with them. Mm-hmm. I don't believe they even have an affiliate in that market either.
Yeah.
And that would get you to 14 schools overall. But I think they would want to add one more, potentially to the 16 for football, and then 15 overall.
Okay.
So at that point, I don't know who you really would add at that point. That would give your conference more value.
What conference are you talking about now?
The American.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I really don't have an answer. I don't know how much Liberty. I don't know. All I've heard is James Madison. I haven't heard Liberty is a candidate if and when the AAC expands. It could be, but I've heard James Madison over and over and over again. So that's all I got for you for today.
No, it's totally okay. No, I was thinking Liberty just because they are, again, one of the top premier brands that's not in the American for, a better conference overall.
No question. They've got the commitment. They're going to pay their players. No question about it. Yep.
And then secondly, I'm an Indiana fan, so I don't know if you have anything about the Indiana Northwestern game.
Yeah, I did not put it as one of the selections. I forgot what the line is. What is the line on that game? Do you know?
I believe it's 7.5. I think it was 13, but they bumped it down to 7.5.
Okay. I don't know. They should be able to clear Northwestern pretty easily. I love that quarterback. I have loved him since he was the quarterback of the Bobcats, Ohio. Then he had a bad knee injury. Last year was his recovery year. When I saw that he went in the portal and Coach Sig went right after him, you knew that. At least I thought that Sig knew that he had his guy, and Sorsby transferred, and yeah, it's a pretty exciting year for the Hoosiers, man. You've got a shot. You got a shot to make the playoffs. Even you can go 10-2.
Oh, I definitely agree, and I think it goes back to Cignetti's approach to the way he's coaching. Under Tom Allen, we wouldn't be blowing out Charlotte or Western Illinois. Those games would have been kept close. They would have been like a 1-score, 2-score game. They wouldn't be a 40 or even a 74-point game. So I really think the mentality that he built around the program is just incredible. Yeah. It's like a whole new different team.
Yeah.
And I know, again, Roki, when you're talking about yeah, he's decent. Swansea last year was all right, but again, that was under Tom Allen, and that whole last couple of years has been degressing the last couple of years. And you bring in an offensive guy like Signetti, that's going to change your program around. He wants to win in Indiana. He has that mindset. We can win a national championship. Is it going to happen? It may not, but you have that mindset of winning one. The team is going to believe that they can actually win in Indiana. You know, we're one of the bottom feeders historically in that conference.
Yeah, it's an exciting year. And you got a shot, man. You guys got a shot. And you have the right to dream, right? Because of the expanded playoffs, this is what it's all about. You should be dreaming. It's going to be fun. Again, Northwestern's going to try to trip you up. I don't think they're going to be able to. I think you're just going to be able to outscore them. But it's going to be fun. What time is that game at?
Well, I'm West Coast, so about 9 o'clock my time, so 12 Eastern.
Sure. Okay.
So yeah, no, I'll be watching. I'm excited. I've been an Indiana fan for the past 10 years, so I've seen the up and downs. And this is really the first time I've been really excited. You know, besides basketball season, I really never had anything to be excited about.
Yeah. All right, man. I appreciate the call.
No, thank you, Greg. Thank you.
You got to call again, sir. And it was Zach, right?
I will. Yeah, yes.
Got it. Thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
You too. Bye.
All right. Sorry, guys. I gotta clear something up here. Okay. Okay. Great call. Thank you, Zach. Indiana Hoosier guy. We got another Hoosier in the PATC community. That's a beautiful thing. They are having a season, I tell you. There was another question here. LFG, Minnesota Athletics has a higher ceiling not attainable with Roll the Boat. You do know that Fleck has been the most successful head coach at Minnesota during my lifetime. And it's not even close. 11-2, top 10, then went 9-4, 9-4. It's not even close. If Fleck walked out of Minnesota today, he would be the most successful head coach at Minnesota for decades. I think people have a wrong perspective of Coach Fleck. He's been incredibly successful. He may not be able to do it again, but he's been unbelievably successful at Minnesota. We might have to go somewhere else, a new coach in a couple of years. But I think people lose perspective. Yep. Indiana's new coach is James Madison, old coach. Let me bring this over here. If you're new to the channel, or if you haven't done so yet, please hit subscribe. Turn on your notifications, because we can come on live at any time. We could be coming on live later today with breaking news. You don't know what's going to happen. The Mountain West, I still think they're going to be making some moves, at least with Hawaii and possibly something else. So I just want to give you guys a heads up. We could be going on live again later tonight. I want to thank you all for joining us. Please subscribe if you haven't done so. Please smash the like button if you like our content. I appreciate it. I appreciate the donations that we have received to help us keep the lights on here at Peek Around the Corner. Very much appreciate it. From Preston from Greensboro, Opie, and J Go Blue, thank you for the donations. Thank you guys so very much. Again, if you want to become a member of this program, go to the link provided in the description box below the video. Hit that link, hit the join button, become a member, because you never know when we're going to be dropping an early peek Cloak and Dagger information before we go with it live. Thanks, A-Mac. Appreciate it. No, I don't. No, I don't. His time might be up, but he's been the best head coach we've had for decades. That's not even arguable. A lot of people don't like his personality, but I can tell you he's completely authentic. That is who he is. And the Gophers have more NFL play. In every metric, whatever metric you want to do it, NFL players, do you know there's only 6 college football teams, 6 of them, who has had a player drafted in the first or second round of the NFL draft for the last 5 years? 6 of them. Your Buckeyes, your Georgia Bulldogs. One of those 6 is the Minnesota Golden Gophers. So no matter what metric you use, Fleck has outdistanced himself from any other Gopher coach in my lifetime. So he's been a great success. But can he do it again? That's the question. And he probably can't. But we'll see. We'll see what happens next year. We just lost to Michigan by 3 at Michigan. We'll see what happens Saturday night against USC. And I think it's a bad matchup. Bad matchup for my Gophers. We'll see what happens. Thank you, Tracy FSU. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. Again, keep your head on a swivel. We may have to come on live later again tonight. So until then, from all of us at PATC to all of you, please, you all take great care of each other. Thank you so very much.